Osio, doichu, todo kun wahalia danadach magiski. Hello, and how are you? This is Chief Eagle Spirit Dancing of the Cherokee Blackfeet Cultural Circle again, sitting before you, humbled, appreciative, and blessed extremely by the Great Spirit. To my listening audience, I'd like to say Wado. Again, it's in Cherokee, that means thank you. Extremely, for taking the time out to hear what I have to say and what I represent for my tribal organization, the Cherokee Blackfeet Cultural Circle. It's been a while, as it always is. It's like sometimes before I sit down and I do these video presentations, I usually like to give much thought into what I'm going to say, as it would any wise person who's doing a presentation. You don't want to come on, any um, um, public airway and make a fool of yourself. So, but I put much thought into what I'm going to give, and I always allow the Great Spirit to inspire me. And of course, through study and history, what we say gnosis in the more or less knowledge of something in that in which you are speaking about. Gnosis means to know thyself, know that which you are talking about. No man speaks of that which he does not know. You're not supposed to, unless you make a fool of yourself. So, anyway, it's been a while, and I'm always thinking of my people, human beings. And when I say people, that's what I'm referring to. Well, in particular, indigenous community, because I believe there is where I serve the greatest purpose for those who are lost in the cities, the suburbs, the countrysides, the valleys. It's those who are left without a voice, those who feel empty, searching for that which would make them whole again. And it is with that in mind that keeps me motivated to speak. I had wanted to touch on a particular area of subject, of interest that I have, that I did a video on. It was about UFOs and the indigenous community, past and present. Um, there are some people who probably think that I am a quack, when I'm referring to these things. But yet, in fact, as I have showed in my previous video that I did about UFOs in the indigenous community, past and present, that there is irrefutable evidence to show that there is something that is real about these unidentified flying objects. So real that if you go to Cablevision now, Optimum or satellite, you'll find a channel, 3 or 4 channels today that's talking about it. They are paying very, very close attention to this phenomena, as they call it, phenomena. They don't understand what it is, trying to figure out what it is. again, and speaking from the video, the first video that I did on it, and knowing what I know about them and the relationship throughout the ages that our people have experienced is very real. You know, one who is without study can only imagine what they are. The one who takes the time out to look can give a better um, viewpoint on what it is that we have been witnessing and what we are still seeing today. Because all over the earth, you see these unidentified flying objects virtually everywhere. Now, there are many people who have never seen one. Um, and that's okay. It should be of a great concern and of no great concern. And the reason why I say that is because when you believe that, I want people to pay attention to this comment. When you believe, because when I'll give an example. You have a bunch of children in the yard, children all different sizes, ages to some degree, between third grade and sixth grade, or fourth grade and sixth grade. Usually the children a little bigger, some bigger than others. And you usually have a bully in the yard. And the bully usually, of course, he's bullying other children, usually smaller than himself or themselves or herself, whatever. And the bully is either bigger, or he wields a stick, and he has this attitude that I'll beat you up at any time I want. And when you have something like that, that poses a problem to the peace in the rest of the yard with the other children. The rest of the children either become fearful, or all of them become fearful. The bigger kid with the bigger stick, and they're subdued by fear. And this could go on throughout the children's adolescence. And then that fear starts to sink in the nerves, blood, and they grow into this. Therefore, either they become antisocial, and despondent, very apprehensive, dealing with other people, and fearful of, just like everyday common people, and don't interact. Now, this doesn't happen to every child in the yard. That's not my point here. The point is that the effects of this can linger through other children who have been directly affected by this bully in the yard. You can't seem to break out of a stupor of fear that will leave you blind, hurt emotionally, mentally, spiritually for the rest of your life. Some children even question God as they get older with what they're being taught in churches. What kind of God would allow something like that to happen to me? That's because we have been ill-taught about who God is. That's what I'm getting to with the UFO phenomena. We are responsible for the lives of our children, the well-being, in every aspect, mentally, spiritually, physically, teaching them properly, even to teach them that bullying and beating up on your brother and sister will not be tolerated even at the youngest of ages. Disciplines have to be put into place. Communities have to be checked and rechecked, because I believe that we had a philosophy at one time, and the Africans, so-called Africans, had a philosophy. It takes a village to raise a child. We don't have that anymore. What does this have to do with UFOs? Stay with me. We don't have this mentality hardly anymore. It's very vague now. Why is that? At one time, you go back in the 60s and 70s, for those of you who are in the 40s and above. Yeah, I'll be 46 next month. So at one time, you couldn't walk down the street, do something bad, and someone in the neighborhood sees you, and you get disciplined for it if you do something that's out of line. Can't do that anymore. Things have become too volatile. People, adults, are committing acts against children, deviant behaviors, pedophiles, physical abuse beyond discipline. There's a fine line between discipline and physical abuse. You have to be very careful. Some people don't know how to exercise that. There are ways to discipline a child without even having to touch them. It depends on the situation. One has to be wise in their dealings with a child in that regards. And the community was like that at one time. But if you did something that was out in the street that was wicked and wrong, you were disciplined. And it was dealt with accordingly. The indigenous communities in our villages, our cities, you did something that was detrimental to the whole, you were warned the first time. And I'm talking about in adulthood now. You were warned, and then summarily either kicked out or killed, depending on what it was, how severe. There weren't third and fourth chances. We couldn't tolerate that. It would become like an infection that would spread, just like bullying in the yard of children, spreading fear and discomfort. When you have a peaceful order that exists, and now suddenly it's uprooted. So now we have a government that steps in. Of course, we must monitor child abuse. Yes, I agree with that. When you have people that are molesting children, people who do that, I believe they deserve the death penalty. Point blank. You touch my child, I'm not calling 911. If I know for a fact that you touch my child, I'm coming after you. And such should be the case with the justice system, with children who are abused physically. So when you have children abusing children, where did this teaching come from? How did children learn to abuse other children? We live in a violent society. Everywhere is violence. Television, movies, newspapers, kids playing in the streets. It's more perpetuated in the social order. So what are we to make of this? What are we to do? Community is very important. Get to know your neighbors, to know the people around you as much as you can. Small communities is easier. Bigger communities is much harder. I know, as I live in a much bigger community. I live in New York City. So it's something that has to be spread, just like they spread violence, television, through movies. A child sees violence on the television, takes it as the norm. If they see violence on television, then it's violence in the home. Mommy and daddy's fighting. It's the norm. What does this have to do with UFOs and the bullying? I'm trying to make a point here. I hope that your eyes are open. I ain't talking about these two eyes right here. when people start to question whether there's a God or not, or how would God let something like this happen? People forget that God gave man free will, right? You have the ability to choose between what? Good and evil. We have that ability, do we not? I'm sure most of you would agree. If you study history, then you understand that God always gives man a time to get it together because you have the ability for free will. You are of a higher order, species, meaning the brain that we have, not just used for technology, not just, used to build and create things, but to balance creativity with morality. That's like utilizing technology for the betterment of our lives, but not to hurt the earth. Because if you hurt that which sustains you, of course, the earth is going to react to your indignant actions against that which sustains you. It's only a natural reaction. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So, those are the laws of physics. The same applies with us here today. I'm going to keep this short. I just wanted to do a quick commentary on the follow-up to the UFOs, indigenous community. Now, throughout the scriptures, whether you're a Christian, you're a Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, whatever, you'll find literature that references UFOs. In the Bible, in the book of Ezekiel, in the book of Daniel, throughout the Quran, throughout the Torah, the prophets spoke of these things. It's there, the evidence is there. Take the time out to go look for it. I just gave you a few footnotes to reference, to research. Go look for it. It's there. It's there. So the people, who believe that God has forsaken them, even they say, excuse me, when Yeshua or Jesus, when the brother was on the cross, he said, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. Who's Eli? Eli is short for Elijah. He said, my God. That's what lama sabachthani means. It's Hebrew. It means, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Now, Jesus was strong. Why would he say something like that? Who's this on the cross? And who is he calling? And why would he think God forsook him? Many of us go through this. We go through this today. We think God has forsaken us, or we believe there's no God. Now you think about this. The earth itself. 6 sextillion tons. That's how much the earth weighs. Now, the figure I just came up with, I got that through a mathematical lesson that I received from someone a long time ago. 6 sextillion tons is how much the earth weighs. And it sits floating in space with 8 other planets plus the sun. There has to be a God. But the misconception here is, are we dealing with a spirit, or are we dealing with the flesh? Or both? The interpretation is the problem. And this is the relevancy and the connection to the UFOs. That's why the Europeans in their madness, they're going crazy because they can't figure out what these things are. But yet we have images all around the earth. From the Anasazi, to the Navajo, to the Hopi, many more tribes who have come in contact with these beings. Now, they didn't say that they were alien, they just said beings, otherworldly beings. God said, I have made man in my image. I'm trying to get people to use their heads now. If we really believe that man is 6,000 years old on this planet, we need to have our heads examined, especially when we are in an age of science, data that running through the roof. Forensics says that we've been here much longer than 6,000 years. So what is going on? I'm going to say this. The God that I know of is very real. It's physical beings. God said, let us listen to the words. God said, let us make man. Who's us? I thought there was just one God. That sounds plural to me. What's at work here? God makes man. He gives us free will. He says, go into the earth, multiply. I'll just watch from afar. And then when you're acting up, I'm going to return. Big earthquake in China the other day. Scripture says, on his return, Jesus said, my sword's going to be dripping with blood. Now, why would God say that he's going to kill people? Why did he destroy Sodom and Gomorrah? Sodom and Gomorrah was out of line. People will sit here and say they will be just as nasty as they can be and say that what kind of God would do that? Well, he gave you free will not to act the fool and act out of your natural behavior. We have laws. The indigenous peoples had laws. We had laws that if you went out of our natural order, you were dealt with. You were disciplined. You were warned. Then you were destroyed or cast out. Didn't man get cast out of the Garden of Eden for disobedience? What's the difference? So here we believe as human beings that we could just do anything we want. The indigenous peoples, my family, we know better. We know this is not the case. Some of us want to sit there and act like it is, but we know this is not the case. I can point out a few things, but reach deep down inside your hearts and you'll know what I'm saying is true. You might not like it, but you know what I'm saying is true. That our moral characters are failing because we live in an imbalanced and unjust society that permits things that are destructive and that God abhors. If we look within ourselves, we'll find the balance and restore ourselves. We look in our heart of hearts. You know, the laws, the natural laws. We knew better than to hurt Mother Earth, did we not? Now, what if we said, oh, we could just be willy-nilly and just go out there and do just what the European has done in terms of destroying the water, the air, and the earth? Wouldn't we take a look at ourselves in the mirror and say, what are we doing? We'd have to say, we're acting just like them. So what's wrong here? So, at the end of this recording, I would like to say, Wado, my family just walked in the door and I have to cut this short, but there will be a part 2 to follow up on this one. Okay? Donada, go honey, anigido.